All right, welcome back. This is the Coach Mark Gottfried Show, and I'm really pumped up today because I got a good friend who is a phenomenal basketball coach. He's had an amazing run, and he's had a great career, and we used to have some battles in the ACC. So today, welcome in Brad Brownell, the head basketball coach at Clemson in the ACC. Brad, fired up to have you, man. Thank you.
Good to be with you, my man. We did have some battles. I know we're going to talk about one I'm sure that you remember stealing in Little John, so I know that one's at the top of the list for you. We did win once or twice at Raleigh, though, I think, so I better stick that in there, too.
Yes, you did.
We had a good time.
So let's go back, Brad, because I think what happens, especially with this show, I think people enjoy, kind of learning somebody's story. A lot of times we see people that are having a lot of success, and recently you've just kind of taken it to another level, but sometimes people don't realize there was a lot of steps, along the way. And for you, I guess the first thing I want to talk about is, you played, small college basketball. You didn't play high level,
right?
But you had this, when did you begin to get that burning kind of desire that we all kind of had that, man, I want to coach. I want to go from playing to coaching.
Yeah, pretty early. I'm the son of a high school teacher and coach from Southern Indiana, so basketball was pretty big. That was back when Coach Knight was roaming the sidelines of Bloomington, and every high school coach in the state, was going to his clinics and trying to be like him and dressing like him, and my dad was about the same. And so I was just around the game my whole life. Obviously went to, games with my dad, and I'd be up there at 7, 8, 9 years old, and I think I'm helping him scouting, like I'm keeping some sort of chart that I'm sure is going to be the difference in him winning his next game or not. But really, I just wanted to be with my dad. And but I was a pretty decent high school player, but late bloomer. So I went to DePaul University, a Division III. And had a really good career in terms of wins and losses. We played for the Division III national championship. But most important in all of that is I played for a really good coach, Royce Waltman, who was one of Coach Knight's assistants. Mm-hmm. He was with Coach Knight when they won the national championship there at Indiana, I think in '87. He was with him when he was coaching the Olympic team. I mean, he was a brilliant coach, went on to coach at the University of Indianapolis and then Indiana State University, and did a great job at Indiana State and took them to the tournament a couple times, won a couple games. So I was really blessed to just be around good coaches at a young age. And after I played, I thought I was going to be a GA for Coach Waltman, but then Coach Cruz, Jim Cruz, was the head coach at the University of Evansville, my hometown. I had worked all their basketball camps, in the summers of college. And so Coach Cruz and Coach Waltman were on staff together at IU. They were best friends. And so Coach Cruz asked Coach Waltman if I could come down and be a GA for him. And Coach Waltman thought that was a great idea. I need to see what it was like at the, Division I level, listen to a new coach, hear some different things. But the interesting thing was the NCAA, in all its wisdom, got rid of the graduate assistantship at Division I at the end of the year. And so Coach Cruz, told me, hey, this could happen. But I went down there anyway and had an unbelievable year. We actually had a great team, won the Midwest Collegiate, I think it was back then, went to the NCAA tournament, just had an incredible experience. But lost my job in the first year because the NCAA got rid of college GAs. And so ironically, my coach went to University of Indianapolis that summer to become a Division II coach. I went with him up there and finished working 2 years there for him at the University of Indianapolis as a grad assistant, got my master's degree. And then the crazy thing is I got married to my high school sweetheart, didn't have a job, didn't know what I was going to do. Interviewed for a couple of head high school jobs. I'd student taught, thinking that I would be a high school teacher and coach just like my dad, and interviewed and talked to a couple guys at Division III, Division II level jobs, didn't get anything. And then all of a sudden, Jerry Wainwright got the job late at North Carolina Wilmington. He had been on staff there at Wake Forest, and he knew one of the former assistants for Coach Cruz, Will Ray, another Chicago guy, had been the coach at Loyola Chicago, and he was calling around asking people for a good young guy who maybe had a master's degree and could do some teaching and become the restricted earnings coach, right? Remember when we had that?
Oh, yeah.
So 1994, I get married, and then in July, get offered the job to go be the restricted earnings coach at UNC Wilmington. And it's crazy. I was actually teaching 3 classes at UNC Wilmington, and, working for Coach Wainwright for 3 years. I did that. Had a ball, had a blast learning from Coach Wainwright. And then, as time would have it, a couple guys would leave on staff, and then I just kind of bumped up a chair. Every 2 years, I'd kind of bump up a chair. Eventually, I got to be the associate head coach, and Coach Wainwright had done a great job at UNC Wilmington. We had some really good teams, went to the NCAA tournament, and Coach eventually got hired at the University of Richmond. And AD at the time, Peg Bradley Doppus, walked down the hall and asked me if I wanted to be the head coach. And obviously it was, very humbling experience. And that was way back in 2002, I think. And but really grateful. But I knew I wanted to be a coach at a young age, and just kind of worked my tail off to kind of rise through the ranks a little bit. And it happened a lot faster than I planned.
Brad, for all of us, I was only an assistant for one coach at UCLA, but, talk about a little bit about the opportunity to learn. And you were around some really good coaches, guys that they really knew the game. They studied the game, and they really coached well. But, I think, when you're younger, you're trying to grab something from one guy, grab something else, or sometimes it's also, you learn kind of, I like how he's doing it, but that maybe doesn't fit my style.
Right.
But, you had a lot of good coaches. Just talk about being able to learn, because I think a lot of young guys that get into the profession, they're in such a hurry. And a lot of times it's learning so that you're fully prepared one day, and you were able to do that. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I was lucky. As you mentioned, I worked for 3 great coaches. They were all a little bit different. Coach Waltman, who I played for at first, was fiery competitor, really good strategist, offensive mind. I mean, he just was a really good basketball coach. And I was fortunate to work for him there at University of Indianapolis as a GA. And this from working at a small college, I was the GA. There was a full-time assistant, Todd Sturgeon, and there was Coach Waltman. And the crazy thing was we were all in the same office. There was no getting away from the head coach when he was upset with you. If we lost a game and things weren't going well, we had to deal with it right there firsthand with Coach. But that was what was so good is, he was asking you in the middle of the summer, hey, who's your starting 5? And man, you better have thought about it. You just aimlessly say 5 guys' names and he's going to be on you, and I learned at a young age to get prepared, and he was just terrific for that. Coach Cruz, it was amazing for me. It was the first time for me to see, hey, what's it like at Division I level and how he ran the program, and his attention to detail was outstanding in his teaching. Just unbelievable detail in teaching and game preparation. And Coach Waltman was a little bit that way, probably not as meticulous as Coach Cruz. He wanted everything exactly this way. I'll never forget going to my first practice, and I'm nervous, eager beaver, first college coaching practice. And I've got like a Jim Cruz basketball camp T-shirt on. He saw that, and he chewed me out and told me to get that thing off and get an Evansville basketball shirt on. I don't know who the hell I thought I was. And I laugh about it to this day, but it was like there was no detail too small. We're going to all look the same. And I thought I was, how I'm promoting the head coach's camp. I'm just grabbing a T-shirt. It's all I got. I think I'd only been on the job a couple of weeks. I don't even know if I had any gear, but it was unbelievable. His attention to detail. I shared an office with Marty Simmons. Marty Simmons was my office mate, and obviously unbelievable player, unbelievable coach at Eastern Illinois right now, great friend. He actually came over here and worked for us for a few years. That was an incredible year and experience, and just opened my eyes to what real college basketball was, and that was great. And then obviously the chance to work for Coach Wainwright. I worked for Coach Wainwright for 8 years, and what I got to see was him taking this program over and just taking it to another level, and everything that was involved with building a program, not just coaching basketball. And when I was younger, maybe working for Coach Waltman and Coach Cruz, it was more about me just learning the game, studying the game. I had pads and, legal pads full of notes. After every practice, I was writing on the back all my practice plans. Everything I could think of. I kept all these notebooks with everything. So with Coach Wainwright, amazing, just learn how to run the program. Everything. Obviously the fundraising aspect, right? I really hadn't been around that, and how important that really is in trying to build a program and provide things for your guys that you need to have success as a program. He and I had very similar defensive minds, Midwest guys. He was a Midwest guy from Chicago. I think he had some of the same Coach Knight philosophies, and even some things I think from Terry Holland that were similar, very physical man-to-man defense. And so we hit it off defensively, and Coach put me in charge of the defense after I think it was my second year there. He came and we used to, share the scouts. Every three guy, every game would be split up in thirds, and you'd have one out of every three scouts. And then Coach came to me and said, "Hey, I really like what you're doing with the defensive scouting. I want you to do all the defensive scouts now." And I was a younger guy. I wasn't out recruiting as much as some of the other guys. And so I got inundated. Now you've got every scout. And so you can imagine how much film I'm watching, which was really good for my growth, to see all different kinds of styles of play, trying to figure out ways to stop teams. Coach and I would get together in the mornings and talk about what to do for practice. And I just grew a lot. I was away from home. I was newly married, just really throwing everything I had into coaching and working for him, and just learned a lot. About how to, run staff meetings, recruit, deal with boosters, raise money, run a program. In Wilmington, obviously it's the only show in town. So Coach was unbelievable. He's an unbelievable speaker, unbelievable fundraiser, unbelievable way of communicating with our players. Guys would run through a brick wall for him. They just loved playing for him, and great motivator. So I learned a lot of those kinds of things from him. And so that combined with all the things I'd learned from my dad and Coach Waltman and Coach Cruz, I was very blessed.
Brad, I want to ask you this question because, it happens a lot, not often, but it happens where, the assistant coach gets promoted to being the head coach. So, Jerry takes a job at the University of Richmond. You're the assistant. You've been there. And I have to believe that within the department, on the inside, there was a lot of trust in you, and I think that comes back to your character, where an athletic director and a president say, okay, he's ready, we're going to give him an opportunity. But that's a big step now. That's a big step, going from being the assistant coach to now being the head coach. Just talk about kind of that for you, because I think it says a lot about you. It says a lot about your character that they felt you were ready for that. Talk about that period a little bit.
Yeah. Well, it was scary. Not going to lie to you. Coach had done an unbelievable job. Coach Wainwright had done an unbelievable job. He'd gone to the tournament. We'd upset Southern Cal in a game, lost in the next round. I think it was to IU. He had just he was the first coach to take UNC Wilmington to the NCAA tournament, did it a couple times. We had a good team coming back, and so that was probably helpful. I'd helped recruit some of those guys, and obviously I'd been there for 8 years, and, heck, I told you I'd taught classes in the PE department. The PE department was right down the hall from where our offices were. So, again, I did have, working knowledge of a lot of folks and a lot of support that way. The craziest thing was Coach had done such a good job and was so beloved within the community that when he left, it was hard on the community. I'll never forget this. The day I get announced, it's actually kind of crazy. They wanted to celebrate Coach and then recognize me all on the same day. So we had kind of like a joint press conference, which is completely different. And obviously, Coach got up there and gave some remarks and thanked everybody. Well, one of the newspapers took a picture, and I'm sitting right next to him at the podium, and he's up there standing, and there's a shadow. They took a picture of his shadow over top of me, and they put that on the front page of the sports page. My first day, I wake up to that, and it basically, the article is like, man, this isn't great that Coach Wainwright's leaving. Anything less than an NCAA tournament berth with this team we have coming back will be viewed as a failure.
Wow.
And so that's my first day as a Division I head coach, is like, hey, you think you got a little pressure? They went to the tournament last year. If you don't get them to the tournament this year, it's a failure. And, thankfully it all went well. We had a good group, great players, and we were able to have a good year, win the league, and go to the tournament again. But it wasn't easy following somebody as successful as Coach Wainwright.
Brad, I've told this story a lot, and you may have heard this story. But anyway, when I was a graduate assistant, I was at UCLA with Jim Herrick, and we were on the road, and we were playing at Cal, and, it's a shoot-around, so we're going to head over to the gym at about 11 o'clock, and we all hop on the bus, we go. He's sitting in the front row of the bus. I jump up there, I sit with him. I think I was 23 or 24 years old. And I remember, he was to my right, so I looked over, I said, hey, Coach, what's the biggest difference between being a head coach and assistant coach? And I was expecting this big, long, elaborate answer, like, well, he's going to give me this dissertation on, that. And he just looked right at me. He looked to his left and said, lonely. That was the only thing he said. And so here you are, you're at this press conference, and they've turned the reins over to you. And does that story resonate a little bit from that point, that all the way through the years, as far as the difference in being an assistant in any program? I don't care if it's business, coaching. I don't care if you're the assistant principal and all of a sudden you become the principal. Yeah. Talk about that, and maybe a little bit was going through your gut as that happened.
A lot of things. First off, how real it is, right? Okay, because we all want to be the boss. And, I sometimes tell young assistant coaches, because I've been blessed to have, several of my assistants get head jobs. And I just tell them, hey, you need to make sure you're really ready. We all want to be a head coach. It wouldn't have been the worst thing in the world if, I was 33 at the time, if I'd have, worked another 5 or 6 years for Coach Wainwright, somebody else. Because once you become a head coach or a boss, you usually don't want to go back. And, 33, thankfully I'm 56. I'm still doing it. I've held on. But that's not common. And some of the advantages for me were, having been the assistant, I obviously already had a relationship with the players. So that was easier. Having been in the league for 8 years, I knew the league in and out. And so I wasn't nervous about style and what we had to do. We weren't going to change a lot of different things, a couple things offensively, but a lot of our brass tacks were going to be the same. I knew all the people on campus. I knew all the people in the community. And so the transition was about as easy as it could be, but it was still daunting, right? Because anything, again, there's always going to be high expectations, especially if you're taking over somebody who's been as successful and was as popular and well-liked as somebody like Coach Wainwright. I'm just grateful and thankful that, I was as prepared as I was. He had given me a great deal of responsibility within the program. Obviously, I'd earned a lot of that through hard work and years of service, but I was very grateful of that. I was prepared to even get the job by working for Coach Waltman and Coach Cruz and just being around good people, my dad, knowing the game, the right way to do things. That really helped me. To be confident that I could do the job and be successful. But man, as you mentioned, it does get a little lonely now. It's different when you just switch chairs, you move into a different office. Those players don't pop in quite as often, man. They run down and see those assistant coaches all the time. But, and the thing that I think you forget is all the small decisions that now you make. That's right. You make a million small decisions all the time that you used to not make. You made a few suggestions, but 500 of those decisions never even hit your desk. The head coach just handled it. And that's right. Now you've got to do all that. You've got to manage your time. You've obviously got a few media responsibilities, and that's what changes as you get to a higher level. But there's no question when things start moving a little bit, it can get a little lonely over there.
Brad, I can remember my first, if I go back at Murray State, my first game as a head coach, Division I head coach, and I'm excited. And I'm believing, hey, we're going to conquer the world. There ain't no doubt. I'm going to do it. But I also remember kind of like, I was excited that first game. But then there's a part of me, if I'm going to be real honest and be authentic right here, part of me is like, oh, jeez, oh, boy, hold on, because it's different. It's different, now. And if we lose the game, it feels different. And then, all through my years, I was a head coach for 20, 25 years, whatever. Those losses, they kind of penetrate harder. You lay in bed, or you're staring at the ceiling all night long. You're thinking about this decision, that guy, this timeout. We could have ran this play at the end of the game. Why didn't I switch deep? Whatever it may be. But talk a little bit about that for you, like that first game, first time that all of a sudden you walk on that court, Brad, and it's you. It's not someone else. It's not Jerry. You're making the calls.
Well, I got a great story with that. So you're not going to believe this. So my first game is against Bob Knight at Texas Tech University. So here's a kid who grew up in Evansville, Indiana, southern Indiana. I mean, a huge IU fan, watched the Hoosiers since I was 6 years old, watched them win the national championships in 76, 81, 87, 91. I mean, I just, followed them like crazy. My high school teammate is Calbert Chaney, who's the Big Ten all-time leading scorer in Indiana, obviously unbelievable player at IU. And because of Coach Cruz and Coach Waltman having worked for Coach Knight, I'd met Coach Knight a couple times. Like, he came into University of Indianapolis and, hung out with us one afternoon. And I mean, he's like a legend, right? And Coach Wainwright, when we were at Wilmington now, he was going to play anybody, anywhere, anytime. He played daunting schedules. Like, he was trying to bring in some money, challenge our team, and he just wanted to play the best. And so, obviously, I didn't schedule that game. That game got scheduled by Coach Wainwright during the year before. He knew Coach Knight as well. And, Wilmington to Lubbock's not an easy trip now. I mean, that's a hard little trip there. But we go out there, and I got this good team, and that's my first game. I mean, my best friend growing up, another, obviously just a regular guy, huge IU fan. I mean, like, he's coming from Evansville, Indiana, meets me. He sits on my bench with me. But I'll never forget, we go out, players, how they go out and shoot and warm up, and you as a head coach, do you go out and watch? Do you stay back? You know what I mean? Coach Knight stayed back. I decided, I guess I'm not going to go out and watch. I'm going to stay. Coach Knight came into my locker room to say hello to me, and like, I'm already nervous as hell. And now I got Coach Knight like coming to me before the game, and like, you talk about people that don't know how big Coach Knight is. Coach Knight is a big man.
Presence.
He is
with
big.
a presence. With a presence.
And so, I mean, I'm sure he did it on purpose. I mean, I feel like I'm this tall going out onto the sideline, and I made sure not to look down there very much during the game. Like, I told myself, do not start looking down there and watch him coaching. Just do the best you can to coach your team. And we got beat. I think we put a valiant effort on them, but we got beat. I mean, that's still an unbelievable memory that my first college coaching game is against, basically my coaching legend.
Brad, you had a great run at Wilmington, and I think a lot of people were a little surprised, maybe. At least I was, from a distance. I didn't know you that well then. But, you make the move and you go to Wright State, which some people would kind of view that, a little bit kind of a lateral move a little bit. You did a good job at one school, and boom, all of a sudden you're off to the next one. Talk about that decision, the reason, you're moving from there to there.
Well, it was hard, and it wasn't something I was looking to do, but we had won the league and went to the tournament again, and there had been some turnover, both at the presidential level and the AD level, and I just didn't feel like things were going the way they should go. We weren't kind of being as supported as I thought we should. There were some things that I'd been talked to and promised that weren't being delivered on, and it was probably the hardest decision I ever made in coaching. I didn't want to leave that group. We had a great group of kids, loved coaching there. My daughters were born there, but I could just sense that I didn't think it was going to be able to continue. And so there was a period there where I just kind of was trying to figure it all out. And Wright State called, Ball State called. I talked to both schools and actually went and met with both schools and really had a hard time. Came back, both schools had offered me the job, and I was trying to decide what to do, stay. And at the end of the day, I just decided I think I probably need to leave. And so Wright State was a great opportunity for us. Good facilities, basketball people, basketball school, want to be good in basketball. Dayton's a great community for basketball. Just was treated really, really well there. We met some really good people, some great friends. It was probably good for my development in that, I had to kind of take over a program that had not been quite as successful. There were some good players there. I was fortunate. We had a guard named Deshaun Wood who was a dynamite player. And so we had some pieces. But just had to go there and kind of do my own thing, and kind of learn on the run a little bit, grow as a coach, figure some things out, coach a different league, go back to the Midwest where I was from. So that probably was helpful. And we had 4 great years. Went to a tournament, won 20 games every year, I think, but really had some memorable times there. And then obviously was fortunate to get the Clemson job, after my 4th year.
Brad, you've had a great career, and I think all those steps probably really helped mold you a little bit more. But, I'd coached in the SEC for, I think it was 11 years. And then, I was at ESPN. But when I got a chance to coach in the ACC, for me, even growing up, watching Carolina and Duke and Maryland back then, all those schools, in the ACC and the history, and I always felt like it was such a basketball league. When I coached at Alabama, not that you're fighting football, but football is just massive, like Clemson. Yeah. But here you go now, and for me, I was so excited because for me, that league, the league you're in, it's a football's getting, Clemson's maybe different, but tell me a little bit about how you felt, and I will say this before you answer the question. You came into the ACC, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to be very honest right here. I've always felt if you listed some of the hardest jobs in the ACC, where you're really kind of swimming uphill to catch those other ones, like the tradition at NC State when I was there. They had won 2 national championships. And, Georgia Tech, the runs they had with Bobby Cremins. And, I know Cliff Ellis had done an amazing job there, and it went way back. But talk about you now. You got that opportunity. You're coming into the best basketball league in the country.
Yeah, you're humbled by it at first. Just that you get the opportunity. It's, kind of a dream come true to get to a Power 4, Power 5 level school. And, but you quickly realize, hey, what have we gotten ourselves into here now? I mean, we got some pretty good coaches in blue blood programs, and expectations are that we need to kind of try to keep this thing going. It was I was young. I was 41. I was still kind of a young guy, and I'd been a head coach for 8 years. Took over for Oliver Purnell, who had done a great job. Oliver had gone to 3 straight tournaments, which is remarkable. Trevor Booker, unfortunately, it just was graduating as I arrived, so I didn't get Trevor Booker. But Trevor Booker, as you know, was a phenomenal player at Clemson, one of the best to probably play here. And his run there, his last couple years were amazing in what he helped do for the program. But that was challenging to come in and take over. And the cupboard, it was a little bit not quite as full. And I thought we did an unbelievable job that first year of just building trust with the players. And, had a young man by the name of DeMontez Stitt, who I kind of identified, a tough guard out of Charlotte, who was a senior, is like, this is the guy that I have to win over if I'm going to win this team over, the spirit of this team. And he and I connected really well. and we ended up having a great year and went to the tournament. I think we surprised just about everybody in the ACC and had a really good first year. But as you mentioned, it is, especially during that time and shortly thereafter, the league was just at an all-time high. Like Tony Bennett got it going a couple years later, but Duke and Carolina, just Maryland at the time, as you mentioned, just some of the best basketball programs, environments that you can absolutely coach in. And to just think that you have one of those jobs is, again, very humbling. And but a lot of pressure to try to continue to win, right, and put a good product on the floor. And when I got to Clemson, we all know the football power. Dabo was just kind of like a year and a half ahead of me. And so he and I are a year apart in age. And so we really, really connected. And I just have so much respect for what he's been able to do because, Clemson football was pretty good. Obviously, they'd won the national championship in -- so there was some tradition, but it just couldn't quite get over the hump when Dabo got the job. And his first couple years were a little challenging. But, man, his belief, his leadership style, skills, his ability to recruit, and then his vision to what the program needed. And then, Terry Don Phillips, God bless him, the guy who hired both of us, he just unbelievable to pick Dabo. Dabo wasn't the coordinator, defense or offensive coordinator, but he saw something special in Dabo and picked him. And for what, the vision that he had and what Dabo's then been able to do, and the university getting behind it and providing all the facility improvements and the commitment to football. I mean, this place is just, it's unbelievable. It's an unbelievable university. It's a great place to go to school. It's a great place to work. A lot of people talk about family, but Clemson, it's real, man. It just is so dynamic. It's such a special place. You just have this unique kinship with so many of the other coaches and students and people that work here because the community is so small and the university has just grown. We have a dynamic president, Jim Clements, who is just, this place is on fire right now. And so to be a part of that is remarkable.
Yeah.
But my first 5, 6, 7 years, it was hard here. We kind of had started to turn it. I thought with my first recruiting class, we had a kid by the name of KJ McDaniel, who was a talented guy, but really under-recruited. Like a lot of guys, we kind of were finding guys that most of the high majors kind of were passing on. He was an athlete that wasn't very skilled, and we signed him. And, by his junior year, he kind of exploded. All of a sudden, he has this big junior year and ends up going to the draft early. My only guy that I've had leave early. And that team, we went to the Final Four of the NIT. I had my whole team back, but then he left us and went to the draft, and it just we weren't at a place where we could handle that. So we kind of dropped back down again a couple years, and it took me a couple more years to kind of get this thing right. We made a bunch of facility improvements. We raised $60 million to help renovate the facility, give us better offices, bring our offices over to the Coliseum, which is great. First class locker room, all that kind of stuff that you need to be able to recruit. So we've been able to recruit better players, and that's how we've been able to kind of turn it a little bit.
Talk a little bit about this, Brad. Like, I was at Alabama 11 years, and people always ask me the question. I'm sure you've been asked it 100 times. Where football at Clemson, probably if you look at the ACC, it's the most dominant football program in that league. And, Dabo's done an amazing job. But when I tell people all the time, my last 2 or 3 years at Alabama, I didn't handle it very well. We had won. We're in the Elite Eight. We were the SEC champs. I was getting grumpy. They wouldn't, we can't get carpet in my locker room. I want to change this. And all the money's going to football. And I didn't handle it well. I look back on it now like, geez, how immature I was. And, what a dummy. Yeah. But for you, I think you've balanced that really well. Football has been good, but then you guys have taken a step too, where it's not like you're competing against football, but you've embraced it. Talk a little bit about success in basketball at a place where football is very, very prominent.
I mean, you're making a mistake if you think you're going to come to Clemson and try to overtake the football program. Like, that's just not what's going to happen. I mean, outside my window right here is 85,000 seat stadium. I see it every day when I park my car and walk into the office. We've got 58, 59, 60,000 season ticket holders in football. Little John only holds 9,000. So, like, we're not going to win that battle. But the success that the football program has, you know, rising tide raises all boats. Yep. I mean, there is no doubt that the exposure we get, the notoriety from football national championships, from just showing football game. We're playing LSU here opening weekend. This place is going to be electric, right? And you can't buy that kind of, you know, publicity and excitement and enthusiasm. And so, hey, man, I just try to learn from those guys. You know, Dabo and I have a good relationship. You know, he comes to basketball games. We obviously go to the football games. He'll meet with our recruits. You know, heck, he even takes some of our basketball players if they're good enough. He's got one of my basketball players on his team now. But we just have such a good relationship that you know, you need to understand that, right? And it doesn't take much to understand that that's going to be what it is here at Clemson. And you also can't compare yourself, right? Comparison is the thief of joy. You've got to worry about you. And so I just got the thing that I did here, you know, part of it is what I learned from Coach Wainwright. And I had a young man that got hired when I did in our IPTAY office at the same time. And he and I connected right away. And I said, hey, we got to improve the basketball facilities. Like we don't have courtside seating at Clemson basketball. We had courtside seating at UNC Wilmington and Wright State. Like I thought, you know, this is a little bit, I don't understand this, you know? And so I'll go out and meet with whoever you want. I'll go make phone calls. I'll have dinners. I'll play golf. I'll go speak, whatever you need me to do. But we got to create some interest and enthusiasm in Clemson basketball. We got to find some people that'll help donate some money so we can provide our guys with a first-class experience and make sure that recruits see that we are serious about basketball at Clemson. And so that didn't happen overnight. I mean, that was 5, 6, 7 years of relationship building, you know, fundraising, everything you can imagine. And it finally culminated in Dan Radakovich at the time, you know, deciding, hey, we're going to renovate Little John. He and Terry Don had kind of decided that right before he retired, and Dan Radakovich came in and made it happen. And so that's kind of where it started. We started to have some success. Then when we went to the Sweet 16 in 2018, that was a real jump in the program, and we've kind of taken off since that time.
Hold 1 second, Brad. Give me a 10-second. I've lost him on here. Are you having? Hold on, Brad. 1 second.
You're good.
They'll edit this out, but
yeah.
Can you guys pull him up so I can see him on here?
Hang on.
Something happened on this screen because I can't see him. Just so I can get his face. Give us 1 second. They're going to replace something real quick, Brad. They'll cut this out. This will take just a quick second. There we go. There we go. That's my wife, Aaron. Could you let her in? I think she's giving me she'll give me a new shirt. It's not coming up yet. Sorry, Brett.
You're all right.
There we go. Got him. All right. All right. Can I start right back up, Lauren, or should I wait? Okay. 1 second. Ready? Okay. They'll take that out, Brad, so don't worry. I lost you for a second. A battery went out on the camera. So, Brad, let me ask you this question. And one thing for me that I've always respected about you, but about other coaches, and I've really respected this about you. I've often said that in our business, because our business is hard, you know, and coaches are getting fired left and right. You know it, I know it. And you had a period there probably in 16 or 17-ish, I can't remember, but it was, I think my last year was 17, 18 or something at NC State. But, you know, I think they had given you like a 1-year contract, or you were kind of there.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of guys, first of all, you had a great administration. It appears from the outside that they were very supportive.
Yeah.
They didn't want to make a rash decision, which, like my boss did at NC State.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you're in that position where this thing starts to teeter. You're teetering a little bit. You'd had some good years.
Question.
Talk about that period and what you learned from that as a high-level college basketball coach.
You know, just I was no question about it. So 16-17 was our first year in the new facility. And we thought we could have a pretty decent team, and we ended up having a good non-conference record. And then the league was unbelievable, I think, that year. Mm-hmm. And we didn't have a very good ACC league. I don't remember what we finished, 6-12, 7-11, something like that. But we were a little disappointing in league play. And I remember thinking that spring, they may walk across the street and say, hey, you got your 1 year in the new facility, like you didn't get it done. Thanks for your time at Clemson. And had they done it, most people would probably been, that's okay. It's time to move on. But I think the thing that helped me is, we did have a good group coming. Like we had a good group coming back. And I thought, we were going to have a really good team. And when I met with Dan, he asked me about it. And I said, he said, I need to make a decision here. And I tried to convince him, well, here's why I think you should keep me. We got a pretty good group. We're going to be good next year. And, I realized, maybe didn't go quite as well this year, but, I am the guy that helped raise all the money and do a lot of the things to help get this facility and make it possible. I think you can see that we're doing good things. All of our kids were graduating, no problems off the court. I mean, all those things, they matter. Running a good program, recruiting good kids, being a good team player within the university. I think all those things, like when you're in a tough situation, maybe that gives you one more year, right? And for me, I think it did. And convinced them that, hey, I do have a good roster coming back. I think we're going to be really good. Ironically, we go to the Sweet 16. So that's how it kind of all culminated in a really good season. And then that spearheaded everything from there. We've been to several tournaments, obviously in Elite Eight, and hope to keep going.
Would you agree with this, Brad? I look around sometimes in college sports, and I can remember like Tennessee firing Philip Fulmer. They had won a national championship, and you can go through 100 guys. So UCLA. I worked for Jim Herrick. We won the national championship, and 2 years later they get grumpy and say, "Okay, we're going to make a change." And then you watch these schools go through these long periods after that, where they actually never even get back to where they were. And they've made a coaching decision. Everybody thinks, and the fans think, the answer always is fire the coach. Just fire the coach. That's the answer. If we just do that, we'll be good. But would you agree? Like, and I love the fact that at Clemson they stayed with you. They understood. They were watching closely at all the factors.
Right.
But a lot of times schools just there's pressure from the community. The athletic director's feeling pressure. The president's feeling pressure. Hey, we're paying this guy X amount of money. But talk about that and what you learned from that, because I see it all the time. I see it all the time. People, make decisions, and all of a sudden they make a coaching change, and it doesn't turn out better. It just doesn't turn out better, or it takes them maybe a long time. Right. But in your situation, tell me what you learned from that.
What I learned is, some of it going back to working for Coach Wainwright, right, is like all the other things matter, right? It's not just coaching basketball and how good you are at drawing plays up. It's relationships you have building within the community, right? Boosters, getting, relationship with compliance, relationship with admissions, relationship with your president, relationship, people are asking you to go speak and do things, and it's April, whatever, and I got to drive to Charleston and back, and it's for a speaking engagement. It's not going to help me get a player, but that's an 8-hour trip, and it's on the one Sunday I have off. I'm pretty thankful in 2017 I made those drives, right? That I met with those boosters, that I, went out of my way to do all the things. And I do know this, the administration and the president, they all recognize that. They knew how much energy and effort I had put into this thing. Like I was trying in every way possible to make Clemson basketball as good as I knew how it could be. And we just I felt like if we'd kept KJ McDaniel, the next year we were going to go to the tournament, and we would have gotten them, kept it going again, 11-14, and now we're rolling a little bit, and who knows what happens. But when he didn't come back, man, it crippled us for another year or two, and we just that's where I had to have the luck of the administration behind me and all the hard work that my staff and I had done and trying to put the pieces together to show that we are building a program the right way, that if we do kind of flip the script and get over the hump, that we can sustain this thing, you know. And the thing that I'm most proud of is the last 8 years, you know, Clemson basketball, we're fourth in the ACC in wins, ACC wins. And so that's not one good recruiting class. That's not just a couple good players. That's sustained success. And that's what's really hard to do at a place like Clemson. We've had 2 years where we've been good, 3 years maybe here, we're a pocket where we've been good. But to sustain it over almost a decade, that's the real challenge in a league like this with the competitors that you're competing against. That's what I'm most proud of being at Clemson.
Yeah, and that's why I always say some of the respect I have respect for a lot of coaches, but I always think staying power to me, like staying power. You know, that's kind of a sign, and that's something you've been able to do. And you know, we were laughing before we came on, you and I, and talking about some great games, because when I'm at NC State, you're at Clemson, we had battles, and you know I'm bringing this one up. So we're coming into Clemson, and I got a good team, and comes down to the wire. And here's what I remember, Brad. You guys, we were down. I thought the game was over. We're going to lose a game, and we fouled. I can't remember who we fouled. You probably remember.
I know who it is, but I don't want to say on air.
So, you know, we foul, you know, in that desperation. We just got to foul, put you at the line. And your guy goes to the line and misses the foul shot. But the interesting thing on that, Brad, is we get the ball, and C.J. Leslie is bringing the ball up the floor. And honest to God, I'm saying to myself, oh, boy, what's getting ready to happen here? like, uh-oh, watch out. Timeout. Let's call timeout. And we were able to we were down 2 on the road, and I can just remember it was, you know, a lot of times I would let my guys play. I just let them play in that situation. But in that one with CJ, you know, he was a really, really good player, but he was bringing the ball to the floor. So it enabled us to take the ball outside out right in front of our bench, and we had a great shooter, and he came off a nice play. We had a kid, Richard Howell, made a great screen. And
that's right.
But the battles we had, and I remember walking out of there that night feeling like, wow, we got away with one right there, Brad.
Yeah,
I just had to bring that up. I had to bring up one game.
Wood, I think he was running out of bounds, back inbounds, first to touch it, which you're not allowed to do. We sent that all to the league office. It didn't matter. The boys down in South Carolina with the league office up there near, you know, up in North Carolina, we don't get too many calls or breaks down here. So, like, you know, he makes a 3 to beat us by 1. We're up 2. Missed the front end of a 1-and-1.
That's it.
Oh, boy, yeah. And it was like a low-scoring 50-something game, 57, 56, 58, 57. It was one of those knee knockers. Yeah, Scott Wood, a Hoosier, too. I got beat by a Hoosier.
Yep, yeah. He's probably one of the best shooters I've ever been around. He's one of those guys when the ball left his hand, I thought every shot he'd ever shoot would go in. I never thought he'd miss. He was that kind of guy. But
well, you ran that baseline action for him a bunch. You used to run him off that, then you'd run your UCLA series against.
We call him corner. Corner.
Right.
We got a corner. So talk about this, Brad. So in the ACC, and I loved being in that league. It was a great league. But if I were to ask you, who has been through your tenure? You've had a long tenure. It's been really good. And you've played against great coaches. I mean, you've competed against some of the best our game will ever have, you know, in that league. And but if I were to ask you, who have you enjoyed beating the most? Not because of personalities, but like I can tell you mine, but I want you to tell me who do you like to beat?
I mean, there's
who
no
did you
question.
enjoy winning?
Yeah,
again.
Yeah, it wasn't so much beating the coach as it was the situation. Right, is ending the streak in Chapel Hill. I mean, you know, it's so high I don't even know what it was. 61, 63, 59. I mean, you know, most people don't realize that. I mean, I had people. You know, Dabble and I, we do the prowl and growls in the spring. Like you know, you go out with your football coach and you got to go all over the state and you got to speak. And two things that used to happen in that are always funny is, number one, somebody would, you know, some 78-year-old woman or man would come up to me and say, "Hey, coach, you think we can beat Chapel Hill before I pass away? Like, there's not going to be too many more opportunities. And I used to always tell you, we're going to get them. I promise. Just hang in there a little bit longer. We're going to win that game. So that was always one thing that would happen at almost every prowling ground. Somebody wants to know, when are we going to win in Chapel Hill? But the second thing, and this would always be an older woman, she would come up to me and she'd kind of grab me by the sleeve and she'd whisper to me, Coach, I just want you to know I really love basketball more than football. and so I would laugh and look back to her and I'd say, do we have to whisper? Like, we can't say that out loud at Clemson. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're afraid Dabo's going to say something and they're going to strike down thunder and lightning for somebody to admit that they're more of a basketball fan than a football fan. But winning in Chapel Hill and ending the streak, and then we validated it. So we've done it twice now. We've won twice up there. That's the best win for me.
Yeah. You walk into the Dean Dome or at Cameron and get a win. They're not a whole lot better in college basketball. All right, here's another tough one for you.
Yeah.
I'm going to fire a few at you. Toughest coach in the ACC during your tenure that you had to prepare for when you got your teams ready to play? And there's some good ones on this list. There are some good ones.
That's a hard question. You know, the guy who I had the least amount of success against was actually Tony Bennett. Tony's teams. Not that we beat North Carolina or Duke that often. We didn't, but we almost never beat Virginia. I mean, it was just, I think, once or twice the whole time I've been here. Like, it's just like that guy had our number in every different way you can imagine. And he had most people's number. He's won the league more than anybody, I think. You know, and then Coach Pitino was obviously very challenging when he was at Louisville, just because of all the different wrinkles and things that he would do on both ends. But man, I mean, there's so many good coaches. You know, one of the best things I can say about ACC basketball, especially maybe 5 years ago, all of the different styles. So when I brought Marty Simmons got let go at Evansville and he came and worked for me. And you got to remember, we grew up in the Midwest, Indiana. I mean, we're Midwest Big Ten basketball. And Big Ten basketball, everybody's, 90% of the people are man-to-man defense and whatever your offense is. But it's pretty similar. And I told Marty, I said, you wait till you come here and you go experience this for a couple years, because you're going to see Florida State athletes like you can't imagine. They are pressing you full court, five-way switching, denying every pass. You can't run offense. You got to figure it out. Then you're going to go to play Tony Bennett at Charlottesville. They're going to pick you up at the three-point line, pack line defense. You can't get the ball to the paint any way you try, right? And they're going to run their motion and cutters. And then you're going to go play Jim Boeheim at Syracuse, and you got 40 minutes, not of 2-3 zone, the whole time, every possession. Then you're going to go to Louisville and play Rick Pitino. You're going to get man-to-man. You're going to get full-court press. You're going to get matchup zone. You get everything, right? Like, so, I mean, you are playing against every different style of basketball that you can imagine. And it was like the preps were unbelievable, trying to get prepared to win those games and how you had to prepare your team. Unbelievable.
I used to tell people, Brad, when we would play Virginia, especially up there, at home it was still hard. But in Charlottesville, I used to joke around and say, I don't know if we'll score a basket. Like, we might be the first team in basketball to get shut out. They might beat us like 35-0. It'd be a football score. Because even scoring a basket, like one basket, one field goal,
hard.
I was excited. Like, we scored. We scored a bucket. And like you said, the difference in all the coaching styles, it's amazing. Let's talk about this one, Brad, because I was at this game a couple years ago. And, I'm going to ask you the question. Maybe one of the toughest losses, because we've had great wins. You've had great wins, and you've done amazing things. But give me one or two of the toughest losses that you've had.
Oh, man. I mean, I've had plenty.
As did I.
I've had many. Plenty. The crazy thing is, one of them's my first year in coaching. I've got this team that has to make the tournament, right? We talked about earlier in the show that Coach Wainwright just leaves. I've got Brett Blizzard. I got Craig Callahan. I got these two phenomenal players. And we have this great year. We go 15-3, win the CAA, and there's actually 4 teams that went to postseason that year. 2 went to the NIT, and George Mason goes to the Final Four. We won the league. And so that's how good the league was. We play in the first round, Maryland. And long story short, back and forth game. They score to take the lead. We come back in the last 20 seconds. We run some action, drop it off to a big guy. He goes up to score, gets fouled with 5 seconds left. We're down 1 in the NCAA tournament. This guy's like a 58% free throw shooter. What do you think happens? He makes them both. He makes them both. What do? I call timeout. Like we're going to slow it down. We're going to get our defense set. Like make sure they don't push it up quick and get up. Well, I get our defense set. Hey, they're going to try to throw the ball to either Drew Nicholas or Stephen Blake, and like they're crossing, and we're going to use our inbounders man to help zinger the ball and slow it down and put 2 on the ball. Well, we do all of that. They threw it into Drew Nicholas, and he runs and dribbles and takes about 3 dribbles and jumps up off one leg from about 28 feet and bangs it. Right at the buzzer, we lose by 1. First NCAA tournament game, and just heartbreaking, right? Like, you dream of being in this position to win a game for UNC Wilmington is going to be the ultimate, and lose on a last-second shot from 28 feet. Just, I mean, doing everything you think you can do, and but that one still sticks with me by far, about as many. But I've had so many heartbreakers. I mean,
well, we all have. Yeah, it's part of the turf. I was at your game in the Elite Eight, and in Los Angeles, and here I am sitting in the crowd, and obviously I played at Alabama, I coached at Alabama, so. And Nate's been really good to me. But then on the other side, I'm watching your team. I love that team. I love the team that you had. Yeah. And, I'm kind of rooting for you, too, because, not only did we compete against each other, I've always had just great respect. Yeah. And I can remember in 2004, we took Alabama to the Elite Eight, and all I ever wanted to do was get them to a Final Four. That's was right. We may not win it all, but, for Alabama, if we can do that, and they had never been in the Elite Eight, first time ever. Yeah. And here you are in that situation, and, you've done a great job because we talked about Clemson football, but even that one more step, talk about that a little bit. I'm not trying to bring up a sore wound, but, I compare it to when I was in that same situation that you were in a little bit.
It is. You know how hard it is, and how you don't have as many teams that can, like, this team could do it. Like, in our team that year, we got off to this tremendous start. Ironically, we beat that Alabama team.
That's right.
In Tuscaloosa earlier in the year. It was a big upset, in most people's minds. Our team knew we were pretty good, and Nate had a good team, but we went down there and upset him in the SEC Challenge. And so then we kind of actually struggle a little bit in the league at the beginning of the league, and then we kind of get it going a little bit and make our way into the tournament, but play great and beat New Mexico and Baylor. And then we go to L.A. to play Arizona in the Sweet 16 game, and this is like, holy cow, what a this, and obviously there's, I don't know what it holds, but I mean it's all Arizona people, at least it feels like it, right? And we somehow play our tails off and win a game, and now we've got Alabama to go to the Final Four. And 2 football schools, right? Both teams never been to a Final Four. I mean, this is it. It's unbelievable. This is what you dream about as a college coach, is like, can I take my team to a Final Four? I mean, this is what the whole thing. What you said about Alabama is the same way I feel about Clemson, Mike, and I've stated it, goal is to somehow get to a Final Four. And the thing about the game that was amazing is both teams played great. We played really well. We made a couple defensive errors at the end, and they had a guy, golly, I can't remember his name. I think he just transferred to North Carolina. So Stevenson, who's making like 29% of his threes that year, and he made 5. He made 5 in the game to beat us, to go to the – I mean, they're going to make some threes. They're going to do their thing. But, I mean, it was a hell of a game. We played very well. Game was in the 80s. Both teams are scoring. They're punching us. We're fighting back. We're making big threes. Joe Girard's making threes. I got P.J. Hall, who, P.J. Hall for me was kind of like my first big recruit, right? Top 50 type player, hour and 15 minutes away from Clemson, convinced him to stay home, and he had a phenomenal career for us, and obviously he wanted to do something special. He and I had this special relationship, and, just kind of to take that kid and that team to a Final Four was kind of both of our dreams. That was kind of the fairy tale, he and I taking Clemson to a Final Four. But unfortunately it didn't happen, but unbelievable memories and grateful for that group of kids.
Brad, just as we kind of wrap it up here, I want to ask you, if there was a young coach, and you've had them, you get them on your staff all the time, and you have people call and they come work camps in the summertime, and you got these great young guys, and just like you were, I was, we were, in our 20s, early 20s, and man, I want to get into coaching, and I still have people, they reach out and we'll talk about it, but two or three things after the runs you've had and the success you've had over the long period of time. What do you tell those guys?
Yeah, the number one thing is work for really good people. Just work for people that you can learn from. And it doesn't really even matter what the job is, especially when you're young, right? Like if you're worried about what your duties are going to be, or what your salary is going to be, or what your living conditions are going to be, like if you're worried about any of that, you ain't going to make it in this business. Like it's just, you're just trying to go learn, soak it up. And then as you're there, whoever you're working for, you'll earn respect and earn more responsibilities within that job. And try to learn from as many different folks as you can. So summers, you got to go work for other people. You got to go clinic here. You got to go talk to this. You got to drive here and go meet with this coach, in the summer on a weekend. Just go learn as much as you can at a young age from as many different people to develop how you want to do things, to see what it is you like, what you don't like. It's amazing how much you're still evolving, learning, growing. The game continues to change. I mean, I'm doing all those same things. I'm going to a clinic tomorrow. So, and I'm not just to speak, but to learn. And so I think that's a big part of this is it's way more to the higher levels especially, but really any level, all of the things that are involved with running a program and doing those things the right way. The administrative stuff, the motivation. I mean, I just had an hour-long session with our sports site guy with some of my staff members, just because you're trying to continually figuring out different ways to reach this generation, to reach your players and coach them better. And biggest thing is you better continue to learn and grow. And you only do that by working and learning from good people.
Great answer. Well, Brad, man, this has been a blast, and I'm a big fan, and I love what you're doing, man. I'm proud of you, and
appreciate it.
You've had a great run, and my hope is you're going to have a long, long run, if it's there or somewhere else. So anyway, thank you, man, for being on the show.
My pleasure, bud. Good to see you again, and we had some great fun times and battles, and it's good to see you.
You too, Brad. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.
Be good.